Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Oh my God, this might actually be happening. I've tried recording the start of this video now 3 different times because of just how excited I am for this. If you haven't seen the news, fellow YouTuber Breakhard had tweeted out a screenshot that Dale Earnhardt Jr. Holdings has applied for the trademark of the old DEI font number 8. This trademark is ending with the current owner, Teresa Earnhardt, at the start of this June, and both parties now have to put their case forward to why they would need it, why they would use it, how they would use it, and in Teresa's part, how she has used this number in the past 17 or so years, depending on how far back you want to look with it, which is not very much. To say I'm excited by it, if you can't tell, is an understatement. But before we get too far into it, I want to give a bit of backstory because while this is familiar to a lot of longtime NASCAR fans, I know in the 17 years since Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove this number 8 font, there have been a lot of fans that have come in, and hell, there's been a lot of fans who have been born since then who are now watching NASCAR. So a brief timeline here. In the 2000s, Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove for DEI, the team his father founded, in the number 8 car. It was the red number 8 Budweiser Chevrolet. It was one of the most famous cars at the time and is one of the most famous schemes and cars in NASCAR history. When you think of Dale Earnhardt Jr., even after driving more of his career in the number 88 than the 8, most people think of him in the 8, and he had probably the greatest successes of his career in this number as well. But after the passing of Dale Earnhardt, DEI would end up crumbling, and by 2007, Jr. would leave the team his father built in a nasty breakup with his stepmother and now team owner Teresa Earnhardt, the Wicked Witch of the South. And the 8 would only last until early 2009 before the team would fold and DEI would be merged with Chip Ganassi Racing, making the very awkward named Earnhardt Ganassi Racing. And since then, the 8 has not been used in this font in the Cup Series or just in NASCAR ever again. In 2011, Michael Waltrip did get the 15 trademark from Teresa and was able to actually run a throwback to the 2001 Daytona 500 in honor of his friend Dale Earnhardt, but Teresa would also make him adjust the throwback, as she so often did with anything having to do with DEI. And this is also the same woman who sued Kerry Earnhardt for using his own name. So we kind of know the person we're dealing with here. Now, fast forward to the modern day, next gen era, 2022, and you have Ty Norris with Trackhouse doing a throwback to the number 1 Coca-Cola car. And that would also have to be changed because Teresa would step in once more. Shocker. And since then, in the last month or so, Teresa has snatched up the trademark for the number 1 DEI font, probably more or less to keep it away from Ty Norris, as they have a bit of a rivalry between the two of them and how they broke up at DEI. And now we go to the modern day with this news. And this news, I'll be completely honest with you, is not big in the grand scheme of things. This isn't going to change the racing on the track. This won't magically make NASCAR the second most popular sport in America again. It's not big for any of those big picture reasons. It's big for the fans. And that's the part I think you need to look at with this. Fans so long have basically had to hold on to either merch or memories from 2007 on back. Like I said, that is 17 years ago, as crazy as it sounds. And at the time, with that nasty breakup between Earnhardt Jr. and Teresa Earnhardt, it also was really difficult for a lot of those Bud fans. I remember in 2007, on NASCAR race day, Ricky Rachtman, a huge NASCAR fan who was basically a fixture of the show at the time, with Junior Nation, started the Teresa Free the 8 campaign, or the Free the 8 campaign as many came to know it as. And for me, it's kind of personal. I was a kid back then, but I loved that car. So I made a sign at the time, Teresa Free the 8. It is hanging in my grandpa's garage to this day, 17 years later, with a crumpled up dollar because I lost a bet to him. But we'll get that story another time. But with this, I think that's the part we need to look at. Dale Jr. might not use this font very often. He might only just have it to sit on it so he can give it away for throwbacks if Richard Childress Racing wants to use it. Or if he wants to do a throwback with JRM, or if a truck team wants to, or for whatever reason. But it'll actually be used. This number is such a huge part of NASCAR history and such a huge part of what was a cultural zeitgeist at the time in the 2000s that it does not deserve to be shelved away for basically just a personal beef between a stepmother and stepson that really, from what it looks like, the stepson has gotten over in that time. This number is such a huge part of the history of the sport. It needs to be remembered, not only as just something we can look back on for a while, but also something that we can pay forward long term. I would love to see a throwback to Dale Jr.'s Bud 8 car, or when Dale Earnhardt had a good wrench black number 8 on DEI's Xfinity Series team at the time back in the 80s. Something like that. There's so much that could be used with this, and I remember being at Darlington last year when they were having all of these old cars going out on track and people taking pictures of them, cheering them as they went by. Cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, every decade you could imagine. But the biggest cheer from the stands came from the Dale Jr. Budweiser 8 car because of that connection, because of that fame, and because in large part it's been kept away from the fans for so long. Whenever you see that car, you know people are going to turn their heads and look. You know they're going to talk about those old memories. You know they're going to talk about everything having to do with that car and its history and its connection to the Earnhardt family. And now for that to possibly in a month or even in a couple weeks be reunited with the true Earnhardt family and brand is just something that for me is cathartic. And it's something that has been so long in the making. And I want to end kind of on this. Imagine that JRM, say, switches their 8 team to the 88. The 88 has a longer history with JRM. It was their first number long-term back when they had the U.S. Navy on the car. And I would imagine that that is sort of an identity for JR Motorsports and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and has been made into that. And let's just say Jr. has one final race he wants to do, one last Xfinity race he'll run. He hypes it up for over a year, and say it's at his hometown track in Charlotte. Doesn't even have to run well. He could run 25th all day for all we cared. But let's say he runs just like his final Cup start, a throwback to his 1999 first start at where else but his home track in Charlotte, with the number 8 Budweiser Chevrolet. You'd probably have to do some tweaks. Teresa would probably want to be all over that, or maybe they've patched stuff up. Who knows? Hopefully that's the case. But let's say he runs that race in that car at that track. That would be such a huge moment, such a full circle moment in NASCAR history. I have a feeling you would see a mostly packed grandstands for that. I think you would actually see a lot of old-time fans who have since walked away from the sport, if they heard about it, come back to watch that happen. Because it's such a big deal, because of the connection of that car, that number, that brand, and that driver all together with the NASCAR fan base. And also, on a kind of funnier note, imagine if Kyle Busch ran a throwback to Dale Earnhardt Jr. since he's the driver of the 8 now. That would be such a full circle moment as well, in a funnier way, as it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. who jumped into Kyle Busch's first car to end up basically driving for Hendrick at the end of the day when Busch left the track at Texas in 2007. Just something kind of funny to think about. But with that, I want to pass it on to you. What do you think about Jr. possibly getting the 8 back? Do you love it? Why would you hate it? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. So until next time, have a good one.